Being able to put things into words is a powerful point of transformation because it gives you a chance to deal with those things. You can then ask for help more specifically. You can work with people and tell them your boundaries, or declare your offers more clearly for your audience so that you can start making some more money. Hi, welcome to a special edition of Tea Time. We're back at my desk because we're going to talk about a method of thinking that I have found extremely useful inside of the Sensible Woo community. And I'm excited to share it with you this week. I think you're going to find a lot of benefit from it, and it's fun. I find that pieces of fiction help us build a bridge between what we're feeling and thinking, and they honestly help us articulate really difficult concepts sometimes. And when we don't have the words for something, we need a vehicle that will help us do this. So I find that they help us get through those humps just a little bit faster. They make it a little easier because it's safe to process something in a safe space that isn't directly tied to us, but we like it. There is a heart connection to it. And so it helps build that bridge. Now, there's a history of movie analogies around here at Sensible Woo, and I think they're worth talking about. Some of you who hang out with me here on YouTube have been with me a very long time. And during COVID, I recognized the need for humor and laughter. And I noticed how difficult it was for my audience to process everything that was going on around them. It started with a little analogy utilizing High School Musical. Yes, High School Musical. And it grew into a weekly newsletter that I called the Thursday 3. And I wrote movie analogies every week for about 2.5 years. I recently retired that. Now my newsletters come out on Saturday. They're called Sanity Saturdays. And you can subscribe to that. There's links in the show notes if you would like to hop in there. I do free readings every week in the newsletters. It's a ton of fun. But after a couple of years of writing movie analogies, I got a little tired of doing it, and so I've retired it. But the themes around utilizing this as a tool has never gone away. But one thing that I know, being both a spiritual and very practical practitioner in the business field, is that finding the words to articulate what you're feeling is not the same thing as feeling the feels. Being able to put things into words is a powerful point of transformation because it gives you a chance to deal with those things. You can then ask for help more specifically. You can work with people and tell them your boundaries, or declare your offers more clearly for your audience so that you can start making some more money. But articulating those feelings with words is honestly really hard to do. It is an art and a skill, especially when you haven't had the space and grace to work on finding those words. If I was writing my Thursday 3 newsletters as I used to today, I would totally be using a current show that's on HBO and HBO Max right now. It's called The Last of Us. This is a spoiler-free video, so if you have not seen this, you can rest assured I won't ruin anything for you in this video. As a former girl from the entertainment industry, I can tell you that this teleplay has knocked my socks off. It's some of the best TV I've seen in a very long time, and I feel like it is the perfect vehicle to have a conversation around business, and I'm going to break it down for you in today's video. First, we're going to set some ground rules because this show is based on a video game. Today in this video, we're not talking about the game. I know there's a lot of game lovers out there. It won a ton of awards. Excellent story writing. It's incredible. But we're going to talk about the television series, which is an adaptation of that game. Those are two very different experiences. So the television series does things that the game cannot do, and the game does things that the television series cannot do. So if you're looking for game-related analogies, we're going to park those for another day. And today we're just going to focus on the TV series. With all that said, I find that there is a fascinating metaphor going on here between players of the game and viewers of the show. If you're a player of the game, you pretty much know the overall story arc and plot lines. which is a very interesting position to be in. It's like being able to go through a difficult experience and having some hindsight, some back knowledge that other people don't have if they're new to this experience, which a lot of viewers of the TV series are. This happens in business too. But one of the most interesting things that I have noticed with game players who are watching the series is in all the commentary that's going on online right now, some of them are very frustrated at the series because they're expecting it to be exactly like the game. This just goes to show that no matter how much experience you have, it's never going to be exactly apples to apples in every future situation. So even the most seasoned entrepreneurs among us still have to go through the current story arc of the thing that we are all collectively experiencing. Now, I promised you no spoilers, but you do need to know what the plot is. So if you don't know what the plot is of The Last of Us, here we go. In short, it's a story about a viral form of fungus known as cordyceps, which, by the way, actually exists in our world, which kind of makes it a little bit more freaky. The way I have interpreted it, based on the way the story has been developed for the television series, is that due to factors like global warming, cordyceps has been able to mutate, which has allowed it to turn into a viral form, because currently in our world, that's actually not possible. Like the human body the temperature is just like way too high for that to survive. So as humans become infected, the fungus creates a mind-altering state. It basically eats the host from the inside out. I know, it's kind of gross. Just like how psilocybin, like magic mushrooms, can give you an altered state, unlike getting a high, in this case, it creates almost violent tendencies because the virus wants to spread. It wants to take over. It wants to claim dominance. In the context of the show, let's just be clear. No, these are not zombies. If you want zombies, go watch The Walking Dead. That is a totally different show, of which I have also done a Thursday 3 movie analogy about, and it's a ton of fun. But this is a totally different storyline. According to the producers and the showrunner for The Last of Us, the story is really about love. It's about relationships. It just happens to be punctuated by some pretty intense scenes and some violence in this world. The Last of Us is actually a character drama. It's about how parents protect their children in an unsafe world. It's about the lengths we go to preserve love and relationships and those connections with each other. So how do you use a piece of fiction like this to process what you're going through? How can it help you move through difficult milestones in your business? Whatever you find yourself crying about or enthralled by, or you gravitate toward it in a way that you can't quite put into words, maybe not yet, that's usually something that's reflecting back an element that you are experiencing in your life, in your business journey. There's a famous quote out there that says, "The truth is in fiction." As a librarian who's given many recommendations at the reference desk in the past, I can tell you that fiction helps a lot of us process our life experiences. Otherwise, we wouldn't love it so much. Fiction heightens the expression of the emotion that we desire to connect with so that we can have a relationship with it, we can have a conversation with it, and we can probably process whatever it is that we're going through that vehicle of fiction. Let's look at an example of this. At multiple points in the story for The Last of Us, some characters are in need of being moved from one physical location to another without dying. They need to do it as safely as possible. That facilitation is usually done by expert smugglers like the main character, Joel. The first time we see this is right out the gate in episode 1. Another main character, Ellie, needs to be moved from one location to another for safe harbor. And the people contracted to help her are Joel and Tess, who are expert smugglers. Another time comes up later in the series when another character named Henry needs to get himself and his brother Sam from one unsafe location to another, and so he works out a deal with Joel, who is an expert in helping people move through unsafe areas to get to the other place. So in all of this, the action's intense, the story's intense. There are so many compelling moments that are happening as you are watching this story unfold in front of you. So that's great. Now pay attention to, where does your heart go? Where does your heart lead you in all of these scenes and scenarios? Do you feel more connected to the smugglers who are helping people get from point A to point B? Or are you the cargo who's in need of safe passage? Now think about it like this. When making decisions for yourself this year in your business, What kind of help are you going to need this year? Because how you make investments is going to rely on that connection to yourself and how good you feel about that connection to you and the identity that you have. Let's say you recognize that you're in a personal season where you're like Joel. You are an expert guide at helping ferry people from one place to another safely. Now, maybe that can give you the self-awareness and confidence to be bold and to put out your offers this year. You can feel good about being of service to others when you recognize that you do feel very much that you embody that role as the guide. But let's say you feel like you're in a season where you feel a lot more like Ellie, Henry, or Sam, where you're in need of the expert guide to ferry you in safe passage from location A to location B. One of the things that's important to recognize when you're identifying with different characters and their experiences is that we all go through cycles and seasons, and so all of these are usually pretty temporary. It's just identifying what do you feel like right now so that you can make better decisions on who you're going to work with, how you're going to work with them, and what you choose to do inside of your business. The important thing about recognizing are you Ellie, Henry, or Sam is that you can't do this alone. You really need the help of somebody else who knows just a little bit more than you do. And when you can see that acted out in a fictional story that's pretty intense, but the emotions heightened, it gives you some perspective so that as you make decisions in your real world life, which is a lot less dramatic, you can feel better about the investments that you make, you can feel better about the decisions you make, and you can know why you're making those decisions. Unlike the fictional story, we don't live this kind of extreme game-like environment with monsters and targets and big shootouts. But the roller coaster of emotions that you feel in reality might not be too far off. Let's look at another example, but this time from the production side. Having worked around filmmakers for many years early on in my career, I feel like this perspective is really important. It helps you put on your CEO pants and treat your own business as if you're the showrunner dictating a story and how it's going to develop inside of your own business. There are non-negotiables in these fictional worlds and characters every single time. In The Last of Us, the main character, Joel, is a broken man. He's traumatized by the death of his daughter 20 years prior on Outbreak Day. All of Joel's motivations and decisions are based on not feeling that hurt or pain ever again if he can help it. This is possibly a spoiler here, but he fails regularly. But even though he's failing regularly, his motivations always remain the same. However he makes those decisions, that is the underlying impetus that will determine how he says yes or no. Hopefully your experience as a business owner is a heck of a lot less heartbreaking than Joel's storyline. But you, as a person, still have very strong motivations in your life. Once you've identified them, let's categorize them. Do they come from a place of fear or empowerment? Are you like Joel, in that your mission is to avoid pain at all costs because you've been through something in your life? Newsflash, that's totally legit to have that feeling. Or do your motivations come from a place of empowerment? Like you're going to make sure your experiences weren't in vain. This is very true of the character Tess in her story arc. You're motivated by how you can help others avoid the same costly mistakes that you did. I think our world is a little bit more nuanced than a lot of these fictional stories, which is why they help us process these feelings, because most of us have experiences and motivators that come from both of those sides. You also see through these characters that you will fail. It's inevitable. It happens to the best of us. So how can a piece of fiction help you articulate these experiences, even if that conversation is private and it's only between you and yourself? That is what builds your authenticity to your audience. A lot of people wonder, where does authenticity come from? It comes from these quiet, private moments that a lot of other people don't see. You don't necessarily have to have that dialogue with everybody out in the world, and it has to be part of your branding. But by utilizing a piece of fiction to help you anchor in on an emotion that might be really uncomfortable to sit with if it's just you and yourself, but now you can sit with it in the context of a story, that will help you do great, powerful things when it comes to feeling more bold and more brave, or being of better service to your audience, or simply being able to relate to them better, having more compassion. They feel these things from you. And this is why we feel things from fictional stories, is because the creators of these stories have done this work for us who are consuming that content. The reason why I love The Last of Us so much right now to help us with entrepreneurial growth, it helps us see that we don't live in a world of absolute. Like, you can be good and bad at the same time. You can fail and succeed at the same time. And most importantly, you can't survive on your own. You can't do this alone. At some point, you will need help. Those of you who know the characters, I'm just going to say, even Bill has his partner Frank. And even then, the two of them as a pair form a relationship with Joel and Tess. Nobody ever ends up alone in this world. It's not possible. And I feel like that is very true of our entrepreneurial experiences, even as solopreneurs. It can feel really lonely sometimes, but when you recognize how much you are surrounded by support and help, looking at a story like this can help you figure out more ways that you can find and ask for help and build those relationships. If you're looking for a great piece of entertainment right now, I personally think this show really helps. I was talking with my editor, Cheryl, the other day, and we were talking about how shows like this, pieces of fiction like this, help us process really difficult things that we've been through. There's the obvious connection to pandemic stories. We have also lived through a pandemic. And we were talking about how during that pandemic, even if tears were shed, there really wasn't time for processing in that way. And by sitting with a show every week that honestly makes me cry at my TV, it's giving me a chance to let those emotions move through my body. That is a somatic practice, and it's allowing me to feel those feelings so that I can then find words, articulate, and move through them. The show provides a safe space so that it's not so intense in my own personal space. It's in a safe storyline where I can follow along with the characters every week. I love entertainment pieces that serve as bridge builders. I feel like it's a wonderful service that we do for ourselves. We've been telling stories as humans for centuries, and there's a reason for it. I've seen beautiful pieces of articulation. The most notable has been a recent op-ed piece from The Nerdist, which talked about how Joel as a character in this TV series, not the game, but in the TV series, has presented a wonderful role model example of the opposite of toxic masculinity, which, as somebody who services female service providers, I feel is so important because it's such a big point of healing in our culture. I also love the way that it asks us to find evidence of the alliances that we form in our everyday life. In business, we call them joint venture partnerships or collaborators, but they're alliances. And the best alliances are based on shared experiences. Are you safe where you're at with the people who you trust? You can apply this type of thinking to pretty much any series, any show, any movie. What I recommend is that you find one where you feel emotionally safe to explore within this framework, because I fully recognize that The Last of Us is not going to be for everybody. It is honestly a very intense show. It's a beautiful character drama, but it's pretty intense. And if you don't feel safe watching a show like that, pick a different one. If that doesn't describe you and you're like, I'm all in, I want to watch this, I find that this show is one of the strongest metaphors for the entrepreneurial journey and some of the best television writing I've seen in a long, long time. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. So tell me what you think in the comments. If you're watching The Last of Us, how has it helped you process your own life experiences? And can you apply that to the growth in your business this year? Or let's give some recommendations around here. Do you have a favorite piece of fiction that helps you build a bridge between the unarticulated spaces and the articulated words that help you process big growth moments in business? Thanks for tuning in. Leave me your comments here so that we can process how we feel about this show together. Be sensible, be woo, and remember to be you.